Thank you, students. Today I discuss about the dispersion of light. First of all, the angle of deviation of ray of light when it passes through the prism depends on four factors. Out of those four factors, one is refractive index of the material of the prism. That means the angle of deviation of the ray of light depends on the refractive index of the material of the prism. Again, the refractive index of the material of the prism increases with the decrease of wavelength of light. That means the less wavelength, more the refractive index. And also the deviation caused by the prism also increases with the decrease of wavelength. That means more the refractive index, it will be the more the deviation. So what happens when the wavelength of the light is less, then the refractive index of the material of the prism is more. Again, more the refractive index, more the deviation. So what will be the ultimate? Ultimate, it will be stands on less wavelength will be more deviation. That means the light which have less wavelength, it will be deviated more. In the visible light, different colors of light deviates differently because they have different wavelength. Since they deviates differently, so they separates from each other when the composite light is passed through the prism. So in visible light, different color of light deviates differently when they pass through the prism, and they separates from each other in composite light. And this separation of composite light is known as dispersion of light. In the visible light, violet has the least wavelength and it is 4000 angstrom. As it has least wavelength, so it deviated most. Red have the greatest wavelength and it is nearly 8000 angstrom, and since it has the greatest wavelength, so it deviates least. So the phenomenon of splitting of the composite light by the prism shaped any transparent object into its constituent colors is known as dispersion. The phenomenon of the splitting of composite light by a prism shaped transparent object into its constituent colors is known as dispersion. When the white light, it is the composite light, passes through the prism, then it splits into 7 colors because it has 7 constituent colors, and the order of deviation of those 7 composite colors are: violet is maximum, less indigo, then less blue, then less green, then less yellow, then less orange, and least is red. If you take the first letter of these colors, then we get VIBGYOR, that means Vibgyor. Here the violet deviates most, so it goes to the bottom of the color and red remains at the top. The band of colors seen on passing through the composite light through the prism is called the spectrum. That means these 7 colors, when forms a band of colors, then this band of colors is known as spectrum. This spectrum of white light have 7 composite colors. White light is split into its 7 constituent colors when it passes through the prism. Here the prism itself produces no color, just it splits the constituent colors. Here in the spectrum of the white light, there are the 7 colors. Out of these 7 colors, this is the 7 colors V, I, B, G, Y, O, R, Vibgyor. Here the green is the middle color of the spectrum. But the width of the color are not same. But the different colors have different width in the spectrum. Generally, red, orange and yellow have the greater width than the others 4, Vibgyor, violet, indigo, blue and green. So the yellow is the middle region of the spectrum. Yellow is the middle region of the spectrum of white light. Here the green is the middle color, but yellow is the middle region. This is the yellow is the middle region, but the green is the middle color. Here the white light, when strikes the first surface of the prism, then at that first surface the dispersion takes place. But in the second surface, on normal refraction takes place. Here the dispersion of light takes place at the first surface of the prism, where the light enters into the prism. But at the second surface, normal refraction of the individual colors takes place. Also, there are the 2 types of spectrum. One is the pure spectrum and another is the impure spectrum. Pure spectrum and impure spectrum. In the impure spectrum, all the constituent colors are seen separately and distinctly. But in the impure spectrum, the constituent colors are overlapped. That is why they are not seen distinctly. Thank you.